Welcome back to the Female Dating Strategy, the meanest female only podcast on the internet. I am your host, Diana.
And I'm Rose. And today, Diana and I are fangirling in advance of our most esteemed guest. Diana, would you like to introduce her?
Yes, we have Lisa of Audacity Podcast and YV Edits.
Hi, y'all. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Oh my goodness. The feeling is so mutual.
We were talking in the pre-show about how you felt this was sort of a full circle moment. Tell the audience what you meant by that.
So I literally wouldn't be here without FDS. Quite literally, because I used to be a very frequent Reddit lurker. And I'll go more into like my backstory, but the FDS part of it is that Reddit used to be such a male-only dominated space. And it was endlessly fascinating to me as a woman, as an observer, like as a woman who's been very aware since like a very young age about how differently society treats women versus men, and about just, I don't know if it's my neurodivergence or what, but it's always stuck out to me like a sore thumb. And so really like male-centered spaces have always been of great interest to me because, you know, one of the spaces where you see the patriarchy very clearly, so to speak. And it was just so interesting and so refreshing to see a space such as FDS come up on Reddit, where like even reading the relationship advice, you know, subreddits, the advice in there towards women was crazy. Like you could not make this stuff up. Like, you know, a woman would come in there complaining about communication issues with her boyfriend or just issues with her boyfriend and be like, you know, I've talked to him about this. I've let him know, whatever. And the comments would literally be like, have you tried talking to him? You women just don't communicate. Da, 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 da. You know, sometimes you have to teach people these things. And it was just so male centered. And then coming across FDS. And now this is where like a little bit more of my backstory comes in, because I grew up in a very dualistic household where like, yes, my mom and grandma were religious, and I have grown up like by all means in a church my whole life. But I was raised in Ukraine by Slavic women. And so FDS has always been the life. Like Slavic women align with FDS more than,
Oh, yeah.
you know, more than I feel like a lot of other women, because there's this very clear value breakdown. Like we just see it for what it is, right? There's not a whole lot of romanticizing of men in Slavic culture. You know what I mean? There's sects of it for sure. But like as a general, it's like men are not really shit. Like they're, for the most part, they're drunks and useless, and they put their hands on women, etc. So if you're going to be with a man, make sure that it's worth it, right? Being raised by a single mom and a widowed grandma, and at the same time, there's religion and all of that is involved. And then my mom meets my dad and they get married. And I don't know if y'all have heard me talk about my dad, but my dad is an amazing person, just an angel of a human being. And he basically raised me since I was, 8 years old. And so he also set like this very set in stone, immovable example of what like a quote unquote good man should be, except for I always thought that was just average. And then we moved to America, and like the difference in the female like sphere was very palpable. Like American women are just different.
How old were you when you moved to the US, and where did you move to?
I was 11 years old and I moved to Washington State. And at first it was like a more conservative area of the state. And my mom was like, absolutely not, we're not doing this. And we moved to like a more liberal part of the state. And that's where we've been since. And let me just tell you, even in that, like as much of a liberal area as this is, the difference is still just very palpable. Like women are just raised with a different kind of conditioning here in America, and especially in the religious sphere, which brings me to, that's kind of the circles that we ran in. But me and my parents always had the understanding of like, there's certain parts of this shit that we don't agree with, right? Like my dad has never acted like or said that women should be subservient to men, like in any way. He's never made me feel any less because I'm, was a girl. He raised me with those kind of values, and so did my mom. This is something that a lot of Christian people do in general. They just kind of pick and choose certain parts of the religion they agree or disagree with. And so we were no different. And that's kind of the setting in which I met my husband. And my dating journey was actually very short because most men are not worth dating, because I had that example of my dad in my life where I was just like, I'd go and like try to hang out with a man and I would end up like literally calling my dad to pick me up and just be like, Dad, he just wants to watch TV in his room. Like, I gotta go. Like, I'm trying to leave. I don't want to do this. And yeah, basically that was my dating journey, was just realizing that a lot of men are not really worth it. I had a long-term-ish relationship where I learned the difference between like, you can be treated well and okay, and all your friends can think that you're in a great relationship, but you can tell the man doesn't like you. And so he's still not worth like being with, because he probably just wants to like use you for your labor and everything like that. And so I was just really lucky enough to like realize these things early on, even though I was churched, even though I got married really young. Like my husband and I got married when we were 20 years old. And my favorite part about him is that he was as much, if not more, of a fan of FDS as I was.
What?
Yes. So we would literally come home some days like after work and be like, oh my God, did you see like this like, did you see this field report,
Yes, I like how you mentioned that you sort of lurked. That was also me on subreddit. I didn't meet it until COVID times, and then I became like a true convert, because I've always liked advice columns. I've always liked where I can hear what other people are dealing with in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to read about it in a fictional novel, but it's another when you're like, oh, this sounds like my aunt, or this could well be my cousin or my best friend from high school. And so I really liked about Reddit was like, for the first time ever, you were getting this huge crowdsourcing of just like everyday people's lives. And I think that's when my eyes did start to open, not just because of FDS, although yes, in great part because of, but it was like the sheer aggregate data was such that certain things could no longer be denied.
Rose, you see me like so clearly. That's exactly what like Reddit was for me. Was just like, I'm an only child, I'm a people watcher and I love just observing people. Like, and it was just that I was like addicted to those like relationship advice subreddits. Like, I've always loved relationship columns. I'm a huge like magazine reader, huge reality TV watcher, all because it's like I'm fascinated with other people and our social dynamics, because I realize how much they affect me and my fucking life. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like a nerd about it. It's because I very viscerally am aware of like, that's why I sort of like described my journey from like Ukraine to the US, because I'm viscerally aware, you know what I mean, of how these dynamics can change and affect women.
I just want to let the scrotes know that men who are of any value at all like FDS.
Exactly.
So any scrotes listening should know that, because I'm so pleased to hear that your husband and you enjoyed the content together. I don't think we ever hear people say that like their husbands are super supportive of it. Like, I always used to wonder if like women were getting together behind their boyfriends and husbands' backs to consume it, be like, how do I deal with said husband or said boyfriend? But it's so heartwarming to hear that there are boyfriends and husbands out here who are like, now we agree. They're not saying where are they lying, Because that's the truth. I don't think we're ever coming off with the position of trying to mislead women. You know what I mean? Like, this is supposed to help you. So we're so glad to hear that.
Yes. No, seriously. And like, basically where FDS came into it, like, it gave me permission. Like, honestly, it gave like both of us permission, but like, that was something we were, my husband and I, we do this together a lot. We break down like societal observations, or like we read a lot of nonfiction together and just try to figure out how it applies to things out here in the real world. And like, Reddit was a huge part of that. And then we just like focused in on FDS. Like, it was like our only subreddit, like literally, you go on Reddit and like we would just separately, right? Like we're not sitting there hunched over a phone together, but like that was like the only reason we would just go on Reddit after a while. And we were just so bummed when it started getting like brigaded and stuff. And but it just, the important thing about FDS and why it's like, to me, it's an institution. It's like so much bigger than the individuals, you know, because it's permission giving. It's literally life giving to women that see this stuff and can feel it and like sense it, but like can't put the words behind it. And at some point, I was one of those women because everything in my life was so implicit. You know, the suggestion that men aren't everything we think they are or whatever, like that was always implicit in my life. You know what I mean? My mom never came out and told me like, oh, men aren't, you know, shit or whatever. Like she may have said something like that a few times, but like she just wouldn't leave me like alone with men. You know what I mean? She just wouldn't. There was always subtle signs of, she never invited men into our house because it was like me, my mom, and my grandma. So if somebody was going to come over, they were going to be a woman. Yeah.
This is what Reddit and social media and FDS did for me. It made explicit the implicit, because I am somebody who's read voraciously my whole life. I've always been somebody out and about. Like I'm not just a hermit in my home, but I always thought I couldn't understand why, although I behaved in like an honorable way and with good intentions and was very straightforward and direct, like people would pull shit on me. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, how are people behaving like this when I've done everything that I'm supposed to do? And I couldn't understand like the world of humans on a very fundamental level. I just couldn't understand what everybody else seemed to grasp about the implicit.
Yes. The neurodivergent canon event.
Yeah, I think absolutely might be it for me too, because it's just like, I need you to tell me explicitly, like use your words, say what you mean and mean what you say. And then everything goes so much more smoothly, but that's not how the world works.
All I'm saying. Yeah.
Right? Reddit and FDS finally like really articulated for me all of these sorts of undertones, all of the like the subterranean flows of things that I just was not grasping. And it felt like such a relief, because I was like, it's not like I'm stupid. It's just people are operating on a different channel.
100%. It's one of those things where like once you see it too, you really can't unsee it. And it makes me so happy when women have that same sentiment towards me, because I stand on the shoulders of, you know, other women. And I just know how, you know, what it takes to like get there and what it's like once you do get there. It's fucking horrible. I don't know if we can like talk about that openly, but like,
absolutely,
you know, y'all are like, you know, you're so brave for like putting your face out there. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I started as a fashion girly on TikTok. The only reason I was willing to show my face is because I was really there to give fashion advice. It's one of my other passions.
No wonder your makeup is always so good. I'm always like, what is she?
Yeah. I have to say, like, that's another part of the reason I stick around with I mean, of course, I really enjoy what you actually talk about, but part of the reason I, watch is because you're always doing your makeup and stuff. And I mean, it's such an easy, like, that's the reason why I watch Fleeksy. Like, I was like, you know what? I love watching people who do their makeup. It's just so therapeutic.
It's fun. Thank you.
It is. I'm like, where's the blush placement? I need to know where to put the blush.
Yes, thank you. I know. And that's how I learned to do my makeup. I just watched a bunch of makeup videos in like 2020. And I was like, oh, I've been doing everything wrong my whole life. Like,
right. At least we know now. But maybe that's also why you appealed to me so much, because, I was telling you in the pre-show, like, I'll literally just sit there and listen to you as I do my dishes and whatnot, because the way you break things down, you deconstruct things so explicitly and so methodically. Like my analytic brain like is rejoicing, like
yeah,
because it just makes everything so simple and understandable. And I'm like, it's not like I didn't understand it before, but what I didn't understand was like, I didn't understand it on the level that was conscious.
Yes.
That's the real shift, right?
It really is. And women are fed so much subconsciously that stops you from like sort of asking these questions or like really meaningfully looking for answers, because of that continuous implicit, like what I can now never unsee again as the weight of the patriarchy, like literally just always kind of bearing down on you. Like I even remember looking at advertisements as a kid and being like, dang, like, so women are just supposed to be like smooth and beautiful.
And flawless
Yeah.
and fun and cool.
Yeah, and like when you throw a little silk scarf down your leg, like God forbid it get caught on like some nasty ass leg hair, like you better not have any of that, you know? Like God forbid you take your hair out of a bun and it doesn't, cascade beautifully and falls. And I was just like, where's all this for men? Like, why aren't men supposed to be baddies? Like, why aren't men supposed to have a perfectly shaped ass, And then to add like insult on top of injury, I'm like straight. I'm literally straight. You know what I mean? It's just that is what it is. I'm closer to asexual than I am to, the other side of the sexuality continuum. And I've always wondered, like, what are men bringing to the table for me? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm supposed to be smooth and beautiful and like no cellulite, nothing, but I'm supposed to marry and have relations with a nasty, hairy man that I have to tell him to like brush his teeth. Ew.
I love that you called it relations. But like seriously, right? I like how you call it the crushing weight of patriarchy, because like you say, once you start to see it, you can't unsee it. And what it really is, and this is why it's so scurrilous, it's a societal brainwashing. It's propaganda on so many levels. How are we supposed to see beyond the veil? Right?
I do want to ask, as you said, you started out as a fashion girly. Like, what made you pivot into the kind of content that you did? Like, what made you feel like there was a need or a gap that you needed to like address, Because I've only ever seen you on TikTok from the perspective of talking about feminist issues. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people who have seen your content like in the later stages probably didn't even realize that there was a switch, I just wanted to know, like, what made you think, okay, I love this fashion stuff, but like, I also want to do this. Like, what inspired that? If there was an inspiration, was it organic or like, how did that happen?
It was organic. Y'all are going to laugh. It was when Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift started dating.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So now I have to clarify, if any men are listening, I'm a huge Swiftie. I love her. Taylor's the best. Like, she's the queen. For the women listening, I'm not a Swiftie. I don't follow her.
I totally know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
You just did this video where you were like, women are vicious and I'm here for it. And it's like this video of a guy who's like, I just went on dates with women who are like, I don't know how to cook. What's wrong with you women? It's like, they are lying to you, sir.
Yes.
They are lying.
Yes.
She has other business prospects. She's a girl on the go. Okay. You just gotta let her be a diva. That's it. God.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, God forbid she use her hard-earned capitalism bucks to buy herself a capitalism convenience. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this in earlier episodes about how so much of the marketing of the 50s and 60s was to convince women to like buy products because it would reduce their time in the kitchen. And now it's like, oh no, spend copious amounts of time doing the exact same task.
And work full time.
Like, that's the growth of like TikTokers like Nara Smith and stuff. It's like, oh yes, we have to start making Cheerios from scratch. But why? Like, why am I making Oreos from scratch? Like, but why?
What is the point of the future? Yeah, if the goal is to go back to the past, like, I don't understand.
Let's just get AI Smith. Like, let's just get some AI person to come and do the cooking so that Nara can enjoy being an early 20-something. Like, I forget that woman is in her early 20s and not like a full-fledged 30-something woman,
Yes. Yeah, that was really hard for me to believe. For sure.
Yeah, it's just like the marketing of this person is like, oh yeah, the younger you are, the more trad wife you have to be. But I want to go back to Taylor and Travis Kelce for a minute, because I think that's a really interesting and fun topic.
Yeah, I'll get to the point. So my husband and I are actually huge NFL fans. I mean, probably not anymore. It's just been too much going on with it. But anyways, that year we were watching that Chiefs game, and all of a sudden the cameras panned to Taylor Swift at the stadium, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. What's Taylor Swift doing there? And then they happened to show Travis's like outfit that he walked in with, and it was like reminiscent of the 1989 album cover, which at the time she was like re-releasing her like Taylor's version of it. And I knew this because I was like a social media manager, and that stuff was all over the place. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, are they like besties? Like, why is he wearing like a 1989 inspired outfit? This is so cute. They're like best friends. And then, no, they like hold hands, they drive off in the car together. And all of this was aired by like basically the NFL. Like, I don't know, like that was the reason I looked it up. And in the days that ensued, like more paparazzi photos of them came out. And I was like, oh, this is cute, right? Like they're out there, they're holding hands. Like she's finally, with a man that's like not making her run to the car and like afraid of paparazzi or whatever. Like I was like, this is great. And then I started seeing like this stuff that women were saying about that. And I realized that my sisters were in the motherfucking trenches. Like they were like, look at the way that he's holding her hand. And he was just holding her hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, this is my Roman Empire. Like, this is all I can think about, the way he's holding one of her hand with like both of his hands. In my mind, I was like, okay, like there's no reason for me to just stick to one thing on TikTok. I was like, sometimes people do fashion content and have hot takes. Like, I was like, if I had a hot take, like this would be it. Like the girls are in the trenches. Like you guys literally think that somebody going out with a insanely beautiful and famous and successful woman who is literally Travis Kelce is as a person, but also like his like one of his like yearly contracts is like as much as Taylor Swift's cat is insured for or like makes in a year or something like that. Like one of her cats brings in an income that is like a substantial worth of like Travis Kelce, the person. So like, and people were acting like she's lucky that he's holding her hand. I'm like, he should be kissing the ground that she walks on.
I mean, also, he should be so lucky because his career got a boost just from being with her. Like, she could not have been better for the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. His podcast, I'm just saying, like, it's fucking crazy. So I went on there and I said, hey, I'm probably going to delete this, but like, are you guys okay? Like, this is not, I'm like, this is how my husband of 13 years acts of like when we go out. This is not something crazy that you're asking for. This is not out of line. This should be nobody. My Roman Empire is this being y'all's Roman Empire. Are men not treating y'all like this? Are men not doing the bare minimum? And I realized for some reason I had like, it had been a few years since like FDS was like a active subreddit. I think I was like more chronically online than I thought because I thought that we had the like revolution of like women are not accepting. Like I thought the work of FDS was done. And when I tell y'all that video blew up the way that none of my fashion videos,
really.
And I just realized I was like, maybe I just have something different to offer than I thought. Like maybe there's a conversation that's more necessary that I can contribute more to. And I tried like doing both. And one of these things is like insanely more important to me than the other. And so that's the journey.
But you know what's crazy about the whole Travis Kelce thing in general is that I think it mirrors a lot of what people say about Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco as well. Because if I think about it, like Joe Alwyn, Taylor Swift's boyfriend before Travis Kelce and like, actually before Matt Healy technically. I don't think I've ever seen a man in the media get as much flack as that guy for dating her in a time, like if people forget the lore, like she was like down in the trenches herself in 2016 after the whole Kim Kardashian thing. She dated him, and I really feel like a big part of the reason she stayed with him so long was because of the pandemic, because he was one of like her longest relationships. And I feel like in that time, my sense was that she didn't really want to be that famous anymore. Like she didn't want to be as publicly exposed. And then as she got more comfortable with that, like that obviously changed. But I don't think that Joe Alwyn, for example, has ever presented himself to be anything but that. Like he strikes me as a person even now who's like not really that into the fame aspect of his career in general. And like I feel like, I don't know, I mean, I'm never biased towards men in general. Like I'm like, leave them to fend for themselves. But I feel like that was the first time I ever saw media coverage of a man being like, oh, Travis is such an upgrade. And I have to push back against that because if anything we see now, like I remember just recently that he was at like a game and they asked him if he was excited the president is coming. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm excited. Like, I don't get the sense from that man.
I made a video about that. No, he's terrible.
I don't get the sense that he's like this great progressive golden retriever.
Absolutely not.
I don't get that from Benny Blanco either for what it's worth. Like, I feel like this like shit about, oh my God, they're such golden retrievers. Isn't he so nice that he made her a tub full of nacho cheese? I'm like, you know what? No, actually, I don't give a fuck about any of that because these men benefit from that image and the proximity to those women.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's as good for them to be in that relationship.
If anything, it just proves how low the bar is. You know what I mean? Like, for Selena Gomez, like, I'm sorry, like, she is drop dead gorgeous, always has been. To be dating, you know, a man that looks like Benny Blanco. And it's like, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, she's dating someone so, like, not good looking. But people forget she dated The Weeknd. She kind of has a type. And women don't care about looks. It just proves, like, all of this red pill incel ideology so wrong on its face.
Also, people really like an easy and simple story, right? Like, I think that at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, okay, fine, he's not a good looking person, whatever. Like, that's not even the most important part. I think the thing is, a lot of people juxtapose the fact that he treats her marginally better than Justin Bieber did from all of the media coverage. And so people automatically equate that to he's the best boyfriend on earth. And I think people need to go and touch grass and like just be more real. And just also, they seem to forget that a lot of these men are in on the publicity. They're in on, like, these guys are promoting an album as a couple. It's very intentional what they're doing.
I'm saying, like, yes, like, y'all really think that, like, now all of a sudden, like, Benny Blanco's, like, doing these interviews, like, nobody cared about him before.
Yeah. Like, you are falling for the easiest marketing gimmick of the century. This is the other point that we make about men benefit a lot more from their proximity to women than women do men, especially famous women, you know? They know that there's a lot to be gained from dating America's sweetheart and America's sweetheart musician. And so they know exactly what's going to happen. Like, Matty Healy had like a bunch of shitty things to say about Taylor Swift, but he still dated her because he knew what that would do to his profile, you know? Like, men don't even have to like you to do that.
He was quoted as saying, like, I would never just want to be known as, like, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. And then he literally went and, like, wanted to do that. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that's why we always say, like, look at what people do and not what they say, because men especially have weaponized language, and communication is the provenance of men. They have claimed that, and we are trying to claw back meaning and language for ourselves that actually fits our reality and that describes the world we live in, because we are in two very different worlds.
Yes, absolutely. And men always want to jump in on these things. Like, I've talked about this before, but like when women started talking about things that give them the ick, you know, and then men jumped in on that conversation, I was like, no, you don't get to have icks. You don't even understand what the ick means. Like, structurally, you as a man are not going to get the ick from a woman, like sociologically.
Stop trying to always do everything we do, but they can't let us have anything that's just ours.
No, for real. Because it's like the ick comes from like realizing that the patriarchy is not real. And like the way that it benefits your boyfriend is it just gives him an excuse to like be mediocre. And it's like you realizing that he's just a guy who has to plug his nose to jump into the pool. He's not like some like Disney charming, like Prince Charming, whatever. Like he's just a guy. He's just a guy that has to like tie his shoelaces and like bend over weird while he does it. And you get this ick because you're like, oh, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Like men don't have the equivalent of that.
They don't.
Correct.
Can we talk a little bit about what was the response to your messages like after you switched up? Like, how did the men react? How did the women react? How did you deal with the rise in popularity?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't even know if I've begun to like process that or like really think of it in terms of that, but that is a good question. So my audience was mostly, you know, female to begin with because it was fashion advice, and it really expanded after I sort of started talking more about the like unseen effects of the patriarchy and kind of like dating advice. I think it started out as me trying to be like, well, here are some things you can do to vet and like things like that. But I've moved very far away from that at this point.
One of your most recent YouTube videos was you addressed Scott Galloway's appearance on Diary of a CEO. And you just like would take his comments and then you pause it and you'd be like, here's why this is wrong. And then you would like rewind it a little bit so like people could then listen with what you had just said in their ear so they could hear how wrong it was, right? And you went through this whole video like that. And I was just like, this is so masterful. Like, this is such a master class in media literacy and critical engagement with what men are saying, because I think that's what women really lack, is that sort of understanding that they're not saying these things in good faith. We think they are, but they are not.
Yes. It's once again that implication, that women have to live with. Like, the implication is men are somehow different than you. And so it's okay that you're treated differently, but then there's no good reason. Like, the reason is because boys will be boys. And it's like, okay, well then what are girls supposed to be? What passes do girls get? Oh, none. None. Like, we can't even dress how we want. We can't even do our makeup how we want. We can't even do our hair how we want. But we have to do those things. We do still have to try to dress cute. We still have to try to do our makeup. We still have to try to do our hair. Like, we get no pass. It's like impossible for us. And I'm just really fucking sick of it. And I just can't unsee it. I just compare it. Like, I just can't help it. Because, like, at the end of the day, nobody has been able to give me a good reason as to why men should just be allowed to get away with things. There is no good reason. There's no good reason why women are held to such different and such higher standards. So the only thing left to do is just to flip it on its head. Like, okay, like, why doesn't this apply to women? Oh, the men are lonely. What are the women? Like, women are not dating.
It's totally disregarded what toll it takes on women to be lonely, because I think people have this assumption that men are the only lonely ones. And it's like, no, women are lonely too.
Yes.
It's just that men, if they actually choose to put some effort into it, would wind up with a person who's half decent. Women don't have a guarantee of that outcome. You could be the most cherished and most amazing woman, the most ambitious, the most beautiful, the kindest, the most generous, and you could still wind up with zero options. And I think a lot of men don't recognize that. It's like, we talk about crisis of masculinity. There's a crisis of options, because men haven't had to really change drastically in order to get what they want. I think this is the first time men have realized they've had to put more effort in than just their money. And I think a lot of them are crashing out because of that.
And masculinity is not valuable. Can we talk about that? Masculinity by itself is not fucking valuable. It actually is like detrimental to our society and like toxic by default.
We just had this conversation yesterday with Gail Dines. She does a lot of work with the
I love Gail. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, Dr. Gail Dines is going to be back on the podcast a third time. You're going to see it. You heard it from us first right now.
Oh my gosh. I literally just levitated. Like, my soul just left my body. I love her so much.
One of the things she brought up is that she thinks toxic masculinity is a redundant term. She was like, masculinity by its very nature is toxic. So there's no point in saying toxic masculinity because it's just redundant.
The other thing she was saying was, and she was like, I hate to use this terminology, but like, when we talk about the loneliness of men, well, women are the ones who are also being left out of the positive, loving relationships, or the relationships they're in are subpar or abusive, or they're dealing with, da, 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 da. She's like, what people are looking at is how women are the collateral damage to all these damaged men, because we can't live apart from them. We have to live in a world that they're in as well.
Exactly. I feel like I'm in like this constant loop with women sometimes where I'm like, you're clearly making decisions and choices that are affecting your mental health and are leading you in a pattern of settling for extremely low value relationships that don't add anything to your life, right? And the solution to that always seems to be, how can I continue to give away my agency and continue to shrink myself, continue to compromise my way into a relationship that will actually serve me? And it's like, that's not the solution. But you don't want to hear that almost, right? So I want to ask you, what has been the consequence of you living your values? And how do you think like the people around you have responded to, because you seem to be a person who has a really strong sense of self-worth and strong boundaries. And like, obviously, I don't think all of your advice is taken with the intention that it's needed, that people need to, because some people will hear what you have to say and just be like, no, that doesn't work. That's not realistic. And I think that's what we get a lot as well. It's like, oh, what you're suggesting is not realistic. Like, even, when we were talking to Dr. Gildines yesterday, we were talking about how like, okay, just by betting that I don't want to date a man who's watched porn or who actively watches porn, I've cut out like 98% of men I can potentially date. And most women will be like, well, that's unreasonable because then that limits my pool. And then there's just like 27 men left. I'm not even kidding you. Just today, my best friend and I, we went on ChatGPT and I put in all of my criteria for men. And I'm moving to a new city soon. And I was like, okay, I'm looking for all of these qualities in this city with, and I want you to tell me how many men are left. I kid you not. There were 27 men.
Stop.
And that city has 9 million men, okay? There are 27 men
Oh
that
my God.
ChatGPT estimated. What fit my criteria? You know what was the great, like, the thing that cut the weeds the most?
Mm-hmm.
Was porn. Absolutely.
Just that alone cut a lot of them out.
And just think about how many women are in these relationships. They're like, well, I have to settle because, what man doesn't watch porn, and like, but healthy sexuality and blah, 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 all of these lies that we've been fed, the propaganda of porn. And it's like women are being harmed through these sexual acts. Women are having the joy and the safety and the sanctity of intimacy torn from them.
Mm-hmm.
They are subjected to death and to practices that can permanently injure and impair them. And that's the price we're supposed to pay, just like because he's one of the good ones. I mean, it's insanity.
He's not one of the good ones, because
No, he's not.
here's my thing, even without all the horrifying realities that porn has for women, even if we were to somehow eliminate that, right? And we were to regulate the industry to like a fault, first of all, men would stop watching it. So that'd be great. They don't enjoy when women are treated like respectfully. So like just by default, he's not one of the good ones, because like the kind of porn that's out there is just not okay. Second of all, even without that, even taking that away, say like what's a normal amount of porn to watch? Like, is it like an hour a day? Is it like an hour a week? And how okay would you be with him doing this in real life? Like sneaking up to somebody's window, essentially for free, without their knowledge, peen in hand, and jacking off while watching them have relations. Like, would you be okay with that? Like, is that a good man? Like, is that normal? Is that healthy? Is that okay? Because I don't know, to me, it just seems weird.
Well, we're not perfect. We all have flaws. That's the response you get. It's like, that's the thing. You can bring the horse to the water. You can't make them drink it, right? I've been with women who've been in emotionally abusive relationships where I'm like, do you think that in your highest self, like with the best relationship you could possibly have, that this is the way that a person who loves you would treat you? And their immediate response is to get defensive and say, well, I'm not perfect too. As though perfection is like the toll you need to pay in order to get a good relationship.
Yeah, my favorite response is, oh, well, women read romance novels. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. That's the exact same thing. Is the exact same thing to read about a woman being like inherently like
loved, cherished.
Yeah, loved, respected.
A universe where a man is sexy and treats her well. Oh my God, how radical.
Oh my, how dare she, right?
That's literally fantasy. Now that's actual sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah. And these two pictures are the same, like a woman literally being forced to like gag on things and like being forced to her knees and being forced objects inside. That's the same.
We know the false equivalency. And that's like something where, like, again, I come back to this again and again, Lisa and Diana. It's like, this is what I ultimately had to come to terms with my own brother, that I ultimately had to cut off. Lisa, I've nicknamed him the alt-right.
Oh my God.
Right? Like, I would be considered an enemy of state in his mind, and like after a certain point, I had tried and he has sons, and I was like, I want to be a good auntie. I don't want to, but ultimately it was like, this man is not operating in good faith. And if your own brother, if your own family is coming at you with such ill will, there is nothing to save here anymore.
Yeah. And it's this inherent weakness to me. Like, I think men very viscerally are aware of the benefits that the patriarchy has for them. And I think it takes a strong, brave, and actually good-hearted man to reject those benefits and to put himself in positions where he lifts up those that are more marginalized, like where he realizes his like privilege and is aware of it and is like rightfully kind of like ashamed to use it. Like, you shouldn't be so proud. Like, men will be like, we built the world. At what cost? You wrote laws that didn't allow women to build the world with you. And to this day, the industries where that men, talk about, well, it's only men that work these jobs. Women never want to work these jobs. And it's like, yeah, because the rates of harassment and assault and misogyny in those jobs is off the charts, because y'all are very viscerally aware that if women came in and were able to perform these jobs as well as you on the same level, which they can, then you would lose. your perceived and artificial value that you created for yourselves, a simulated environment to thrive in. And it comes at our cost. It comes straight out of a woman's pocket. And I hate that. And that's why I hate that like women are like, well, if I just have to settle, then I guess that's what I'll do. Like, are you crazy? Do you not actually realize how much of yourself, your health, your potential, your actual potential, you're going to sacrifice and just bury in the ground for a mediocre man who has been living off of unearned, unmerited privilege his whole life?
Lisa, this is what I say. I'm like, marriage is DEI for men.
I do want to bring it back to that question I asked earlier, though, because I really want to know what your thoughts are about, again, you have a public platform and you also obviously espouse the same values in person. And I want to know, like, has there been any consequences to your values, like living those values? And also, like, how have you dealt with the resistance that you've gotten back from people about people who are not open to that message? Like, do you have any advice? Because, like, a lot of women that listen to us, they talk about how hard it is to find like-minded FDS type women. And, anytime they talk about having high standards and dreaming of a better world for themselves, dreaming of a better life for themselves, they are met with so much resistance from, long story short, pick me women, right? Who are like, no, that's just unsustainable and just not possible, right? And so do you have any message for like the people who are listening about like how to keep the energy up, like how to not be self-defeatist and then suddenly start getting into this limited scarcity mindset?
That's a great question. So I have gotten pushback. What I do for the most part is men's opinions, like especially ones where they're like strongly disagreeing with my content, have like negative value to me. Like I do not give a shit. Like I block them for my safety and I move on, right? So like men who disagree with it, I don't fucking care. Of course you disagree with it. Of course you disagree with it. I'm exposing your whole ass. Like, of course you disagree with it. Most of them are not mentally strong enough to like handle the reality. It's like extinction burst in my comments. They're like, oh, but man, like, no, like, you're gone. Like, I literally just block. And the only time that I get concerned about people pushing back in my comments is when it's a lot of women. Basically, all the comments unanimously are like, that's wrong, or like, that's not what actually happened, or that's not what's actually, that's happened like a couple times. And I'm very happy to like go back, re-educate myself and like, try and take it in stride as much as possible. And that's happened before and that's totally fine. I have gotten some pushback from people I know in real life. Once again, like there was just men that unfollowed me. Like they were super supportive at first, but then there's a certain threshold,
I think men support you like they're doing you a favor.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, and then the second you're like, oh no, now it's too much, and now I'm going to withhold my support. Like you're a puppy dog that's waiting for treats.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the case for a few. And then there were some that like would push back, and then I would push back on that, and then they'd come back to me and be like, you were right. Like I started doing more research, more digging, talk to women, and yeah, you were right. I'm sorry. Like that's been a very positive experience. And yeah, I will say lately, most of my pushback has been from like women on hair splitting issues. And that's been very frustrating. And that's, a whole different topic. But I also think like, unfortunately, I have a lot of privilege. Like even when y'all talk about like, oh, you show your face and stuff, like I'm married. You know what I mean? People know that. Like men are less likely to try to like attack me. You know what I mean? Like it's a certain kind, because we live under the patriarchy, for me to be, coupled with a man who's extremely supportive of this content and like everything like that, just kind of de-weaponizes a lot of the critics, right? So like a lot of pick me women can't come to me and be like, oh, but see, this is why you're not.
This is why you don't have a man.
Exactly. And so there's like the built-in privilege, like I'm literally benefiting by proxy from the patriarchy. And that's kind of why the reason I feel a lot more comfortable. And I totally understand, women that don't feel comfortable. Even with like, Melanie Hamlet, like because she's slightly older, or because she presents in like certain ways, like people feel so comfortable like critiquing her and like talking to her certain ways. And once again, especially women. And like it's been lately, like a lot of us creators that are in relationships have been just getting a lot of pushback from women being like, you're basically setting the cause back and like things like that, which is its own thing to unpack.
But you know what? And now that you notice, it makes so much sense because another TikTok person I really love is Cecilia Regina, who does all the Sex and City content. And I noticed that she doesn't show her face either. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's everything to do with the fact that she's a Black woman. She just attracts that much more hatred for the content that she spills, even though it's the same thing. It's like she's not saying anything different from what you and Mel Hamlet are saying, you know? So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's also like there's so much at the intersection of like why I don't get as much criticism, right? Like I'm white. You know, I may not be like American white, but I'm white. Like for all intents and purposes, I'm just a white woman, you know, for as far as like pretty privilege goes, you know, I notice I don't get a lot of comments about my looks from men because, you know, I don't know, maybe because they feel like that's the wrong tree to bark up. I don't know. Or they'll, you know, a lot of the comments like would be different if like people knew my age or whatever. Cause a lot of men will be like, wait till you turn 30. And I'm like, wait till you find out I'm 33. Like, you know, or, you know, wait till like you get old and die with cats. It's like, wait till you find out I'm been happily married for 13 years. And so it's a lot of it is like there is certain privileges that kind of neutralize certain levels of attack, but it is very exhausting. Like the whole of it and like the rise in popularity. Like I got on YouTube and I realized people were making videos with my content, like from TikTok on YouTube, or like sometimes I'll be scrolling Twitter and I'll come across one of my videos being reposted to Twitter. And it's a lot. It like kind of makes you want to just disappear sometimes and like stop being perceived because it's everybody has an opinion, you know? And then of course, you know, people want to split hairs and you're like, this is like a 3 to 5 minute video. Like I can't address every single concern in the world on this fit. You know, people are like, why didn't you say this? Or like, you could have pointed out that this, like, yeah, it's a lot. But back to like your real question of like women thinking that they have to settle or that they have to listen to this kind of pushback. My only answer to that, and this is genuinely how I feel, and I'm realizing this is kind of what sets some of us apart from like just being able to distinguish the brainwashing. I always think of myself first. Like it has never been a question for me. This is what's the most mind-boggling thing to me about women that are like sort of stuck in that pick me stage or just still trying to grasp like quite how the patriarchy affects them. It makes you think about yourself last, ladies. You literally have to be viscerally all the time aware of like what are you putting first in your mind, and it should always be you. My parents always told me this one thing of like people who criticize you. They'd always ask me this question: who are they? Like, sure, whatever they're saying, like it may be true, like whatever. Who are they? And why do you care? So like these people that are criticizing your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents, who are they? Look at them objectively, right? Don't think this is my mom, dad, cousin, uncle. What kind of life do they lead? Are they happy? What is the fruit that grows on their tree? Because happy people genuinely do not give a fuck what other people are doing unless it's like harmful or hurting them or other people. You know what I mean? That's the only time I care what somebody else is doing.
This is the same advice I got from my parents as well, which was that, you know, never take advice on people who are miserable. Because misery loves company.
That probably saved you a lot of trouble in the long run because it's crazy how many parents will model the exact opposite, you know? And I always watched my parents living their best life. And like, while all of my friends were like, there is just has paid off in so many ways. Like I won't go into like stories for like privacy reasons, but like my parents held out on certain things while everybody else was like doing this one thing. My parents were like, no, not yet, not yet, not yet. And when they finally did their big one, like it's their big one, you know, like they've taught me to just never go with the flow, to always put myself first. Like, what do you want? Like they taught me to live like an intentional life. And I especially learned this from my dad. Like my dad never had a minute where he was just sitting around. Like he would put his feet up and like whatever when we were all done with everything, you know? he's so intentional. Like my parents garden. They're always, kind of like remodeling their home. Like they're
Projects,
very,
projects,
yes.
projects.
That is my recommendation to women. Get intentional about your fucking life. What does it matter if a man is there? At the end of the day, long term, look around at most women that have been married for a long time. What do they have to show for it?
You're such a hard hitter, Lisa, but it's like such a gentle and loving way. It's such a great combination because, this is something that I've struggled with in my lifetime too. It's just like coming to understand that who cares if they're your brother or your sister or whomever. If you look at them and you look at the way they treat you and you're like, would you ever accept this from anyone else?
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think some people look at that and they still find it really hard to push back. I do want to bring up one last thing because we are entering the end of our episode. So I want to give you a chance to like plug anything you want to plug, but I also want to ask you one last question. I mean, you got married really, really young. And I think a lot of women, feel a lot of nervousness once they hit their 30s and stuff about like what's available out there and their prospects and things like that. Do you have any, words of encouragement or anything you have to say about what you observed and just men in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So your prospects actually get better as you age. And I'll say that the only reason I got married that young is because divorce was always on the table. And it always has been on the table. I find it so crazy when people are like, oh yeah, we've stayed married because back in the day when things were broken, you would just fix it. Nope. It should be relatively easy to have a good relationship with your, lifelong partner. Like you should pick someone that it's generally easy with, where you're generally on the same page, and most of the growth you're going to have to do is like your own. So keep that in mind. Like there's nothing you can do for a relationship. You know what I mean? Like you have to just always work on yourself, and then you'll have good relationships with everybody and it won't matter. But the point is, not only do your dating prospects get better as you age, and so many women can attest to this. Like I've heard this statement over and over. Like it's very empty, like threatening of women that like, oh, you're going to hit the wall once you're 30, like whatever. You absolutely will not. The prospects may get like fewer and further in between, but they will be more established people.
Probably better for you in the long run.
Yes. And also, I don't think enough women realize that, like, I don't want to get to men and women's nature or whatever, but I just think a lot of people underestimate that, like, women are nature's actual alphas. Like, the way that we've been set up by the culture with radical responsibility and, like, everything sort of working against us, it's made us so strong, so resilient, so like understanding things and dynamics and the connections of the world so deeply that most men will not bring you like mental pleasure, stimulation, like what you're looking for. It exists within yourself. Like it always comes back to that for me. I don't even want to give women like dating advice or like dating encouragement because
it's in you.
Yeah.
Human development. That's what you want for us all. We just want us to develop ourselves.
Exactly. And I just think like once men see that, I think that might be the only thing. But I don't know. Whenever they see that, they just get mad at us. I don't know. I'm just saying like you're barking up the wrong tree if you're really like, no, well, like all I really want in life is just this relationship. You have to be realistic.
I think you have to know that it's all within you. Like whatever is possible, like you are the one that makes that happen at the end of the day.
Yes.
And with that, we've come to the end of our podcast, Lisa. We're so grateful for you to
I know. I'm so sad
we
too.
just go on and on and on. And I know for a fact that we will definitely have you back on. We're so happy that you were able to join us today. Would you like to, shout out your TikTok and your podcast? Now would be the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So y'all can find me at YV_edit on YouTube, on TikTok. And then, of course, the AudaciTea, our official podcast. It is spelled like Audacit and then TEA. We have a Patreon. We are on every podcast platform. We are now on video. So we have a TikTok for it as well.
Tearing it up. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So huge shout out to our producer, Ryan at Siren Sound. Check him out, please, for your podcasting needs if anyone's looking for that. He is incredible. And yeah, proof that there are good men out there that will work hard for our causes, which we love to see.
Love to see it. Thank you again, Lisa. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for the wonderful work you keep putting out into the world. We need it.
Thanks so much, y'all.
And on that note, die mad scrotes.
Die so mad.
As always. Have a good weekend, everyone.